Priscilla Gavi, who is the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Older Persons Board, and she's also accompanied by one of the board members, that's Mr. Chikanza, joining us this morning. They are housed under the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. They're going to be telling us a little bit more about this particular day and why it is special and why we need to actually observe it. Good morning, Madam Priscilla and Mr. Chikanza. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Zimbabwe.
Good morning, Zandile. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Right. Maybe for the benefit of the people, please tell us a little bit more about this day, the Day of the Older Persons.
Thank you very much. The 1st of October is a day that was declared by the United Nations as a day to commemorate aging. It is a day when we celebrate older persons. It is a day when we remember their rights. It is a day when we remember the contributions that they've made to their economies. It is also a day that we look at the challenges that older persons are facing out there and how they are an inclusive part of any economy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, maybe what is the theme that is being run this year to celebrate and commemorate this particular day?
The theme for this year is digital equality for all ages. And this theme is focusing mainly on the issue of including older persons, considering that the world is really becoming digital, has become digital, and will continue to be digital in the future. And how are we making sure that we are tagging along every older person and that no one is left behind in terms of technology, the new technology coming on board.
Right. And I do know that we just went through a very hectic, hefty COVID-19 period where we were on stringent lockdowns, where we were not even allowed to move around. But particularly the older persons were the ones who were faced with the biggest challenge, where they couldn't see some of their children. I know internationally people were doing drive-thrus and waving at their parents. But what were we doing here in Zimbabwe to be able to keep the interaction alive with our elderly parents?
Yeah, people tried their best to use Zoom and Teams, the online platforms. But there are big challenges, and actually COVID laid bare the issues of digital inequality in the country. Digital equity refers to activities that enable all citizens to participate in information communications technologies. And for that to happen, there are a number of prerequisites. One of them is the availability of infrastructure. The second, probably most important, is the affordability of the infrastructure.
Right.
And then you also need appropriate education, properly packaged for all ages. And you also need your enablers. The way information is packaged, the language used, and if you look at most of our older persons prefer to use vernacular.
Yes.
Yeah, and then most of our gadgets actually use English as the best language. So although some give you options for the local languages, but you actually start with English. What if I can't even read the initial instructions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then also COVID brought in the issue of cashless transactions.
Yes.
And most of our older persons do not actually have access to the gadgets to enable that to happen. And where they have, in most cases, the connectivity is poor. And then there's the issue of costs. Yeah. So all those issues brought to the fore the problems of digital equity. And this year's theme is appropriately termed and to deal with those issues. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, one of the things that, I lived with an elderly parent. Unfortunately, my mother did pass away. But one of the things I realized was that gap between being us, I think, as the youth, being able to fully understand and comprehend the way the mind of an elderly person works. I think a lot of times we take it for granted that once someone has reached a certain age, that they can't perform certain functions, and yet their brains are still quite sharp. What can we do as Zimbabweans to bridge that gap and fully incorporate and understand that our parents still actually do have a very active life that they want to live, and they still want to engage in all kinds of things? but we want to, so that we're not treating them differently just because of their age, or segregating them because of their age.
Okay. When you are talking of the linkage between the youth and the older persons, that is actually one area where, as a board, we are saying there is a lot that we can do in terms of bringing the youth on board to understand the issues of aging. We've often mentioned that aging does not start when you reach 60 or 65. It starts from the day that you are born.
Yes.
And we would, as a board, we would want to educate children from as young as ECD, so that they understand the issues of aging. As they age, they also begin to understand how that older person who is older now is getting along and is faring in terms of their health, in terms of their nutrition, and in terms of just being economically active.
Yes.
Because we are saying that being old does not exclude you from the development of the country.
Absolutely.
If we are going to have an above a middle income economy by 2030, without the older persons, we are not able to reach that. So
Right.
it is important for us. And this is why we are looking at this digital issue now, that the more awareness we raise on a day like today, the better it is going to be for us by 2030.
Fantastic.
And beyond.
If we want to get in touch with you and get more information about celebrations and commemorating this day, where can we find you on social media, as well as maybe other places where we can find you physically?
Unfortunately, this year we could not have physical commemoration for the day because of COVID.
Right.
We are housed in the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. They are the secretariat for the board, and anybody who wishes to communicate with the Older Persons Board, they can get in touch with us through the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. There is a department that is working and dealing with older persons. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, many thanks there to Madam Priscilla Gavi, as well as Mr. Chikanza, for joining us this morning, talking about the United Nations Day of the Elder Persons that is being commemorated today. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Zimbabwe.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here.
Fantastic. All right. Now, as we move on with the news bulletin this morning, time for us to take a look at regional and international news coming up next.